This, guys, is the Status Audio BT1. And this is what happens when we go back to the simpler days of consumer headphones, where there's less focus on noise isolation and noise cancellation, how many of the latest features this thing has, or how many mics built in, and go back to what's more important, listening pleasure and comfort. But at this point, you're probably wondering, Aaron, who the heck is Status Audio and why should we even care about this dinky little headphone from China, which kind of honestly smells a little bit like a sweatshop? But just like any other product that I review on this channel, I have my reasons for checking out the BT1, and one of them is how this thing performs, or more precisely, how well this thing performs. So join me now after these messages to find out why I think so and why you should pay attention to these guys. TLDR though, these things sound so good. Yes, really good. So let's do this. Alright guys, let's start out by looking at the specs of the BT1. And earlier I mentioned that these are on-ear or super aural headphones, so bear that in mind ahead of time. These will cost you $55, and in terms of battery life, Status Audio advertises 30 hours of listening time. That's not bad, but in my actual time with it, I got 25 hours only, and that's with around 65 to 75% volume. That's still plenty of juice to get you through multiple days, but just bear that in mind. These things have Bluetooth 5.0 with SBC, aptX, and also get this guys, at this price range this is really rare, aptX low latency. So if you're playing games or watching a lot of videos wirelessly, these are a pretty darn good pair. There is, however, no multi-point Bluetooth connectivity, so you have to connect to a second device the old school way. That means disconnect from this one to one from one device and then connect to another one. And just in case you run out of juice on these things, you can still listen to your tunes with the included TRS cable. And also included in the box, let me show you this real quick, is Status Audio provides you with this pretty sweet case. It's nice and stiff and firm to protect your headphones. It's also very grippy, really nice to the touch with an embossed logo right here. The zipper has a nice smooth action, and once you open up inside, there's this pre-formed molding in here. It's foam, and once you fold your headphones, it just sits right there, nice and comfortable. And there's a pocket right there where you can store your TRS cable as well as your USB-C charging cable, and that's really all there is to it. Nice and simple. It's so refreshing, guys, to have a relatively uncomplicated device to review once in a while like this one. But now let's take a closer look at the headphones and see what it's all about. Alright guys, so here's the BT1 up close, and I'll tell you what, this thing feels as plasticky as it looks and also looks as plasticky as it feels. When I first took this out of the box, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's one of those cheap Chinese knockouts that won't last more than 3 months. But you know what? I've been pleasantly surprised, guys. These things have quality where it counts, and it's not necessarily in the build, so it's not about beauty overall. But if these matter to you, I have a problem with this one at the cover here, because as you can see, it attracts fingerprints like nobody's business and scratches too. But they do have a black version which is matte black, so that might handle things better. I chose this color because of the two-tone. The brown lends it, makes it really nice, and also kind of looks like donuts, don't they? But these things have quality where it counts, but not necessarily in the build. The plastic really helps with the weight savings, as well as only 145 grams altogether, guys. And the clamping force from this is just right. With the lightness of this on your head, and the clamping force is just perfect. The only metal that I can tell is obviously the screws and also the metal band back here. Come on, focus right here, along with some plastics. But overall, this thing is plastic in build, but really well put together. But doesn't look necessarily the nicest, as you can see right there. Yuck. Alright, let's check out the right ear cup first. And as you can see, guys, these have wishbone joints with limited articulation in this direction, but it also articulates here, and also it does a little twisting motion, and also has a 10D dent slider on both sides of the band. So finding a comfortable position for these to rest on your ear as well as on your head is super easy, and once you have it dialed in, it's very comfortable. I can wear these for hours and it really doesn't hurt. The clamping force is just right, and the padding is, we'll talk about that in a second, really spot on. There's no touch controls, especially for this price point, but it is old school physical buttons, volume up, volume down, a pause, play, and then the physical switch for on off. And here is the microphone port, LED status light, as well as the headphone port right there. And on the flip side, I was expecting to see micro USB, but lo and behold, it's USB-C. Oh yes. At the top of the headband, we find some pleather surround as well as some thick padding down here, and I'm really glad that Status Audio did not skimp right there. Now, another highlight of these headphones in terms of build and materials are these ear cups. I really love them. They're so soft and plush. As you can see, it's it feels like I'm sitting in a really nice leather seat. It feels like I'm wearing pillows or marshmallows in my ear, and they're really, really comfortable for long listening bouts. Now, they do run warm or run hot, so on a hot summer's day, you probably want to take them off so that they can breathe. But otherwise, they're super, super nice. Now, in the business and in here, there's a couple of 40mm Mylar drivers. Yes, you heard right. It's just your plain old Mylar drivers, nothing hybrid or titanium or whatever diamond coated stuff. This is your plain old cloth driver, but I really love these in this application. They sound really good. Yes, they do sound really good, but we'll talk about sound quality later on. So guys, if you haven't heard already, I'm trying to get to 10,000 subs and only you can get me there. So if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to this channel by mashing and killing the button down below, and tell your friends and family about it as well. Thank you in advance for your help, guys. Now back to the program and get me to 10,000 subs. Alright guys, I'm out here doing the Bluetooth distance test now. I have some old school Johnny Mathis playing on Deezer in high fidelity on my Pixel, and I'm going to put the phone at the end of my deck. I'm going to walk that way after that and see when these BT1s cut out from the source. How you guys doing? It's really cold outside right now. I think it's like 12 or 14 degrees. I'm doing it for you guys. So the phone is right there at the end of my deck from where I'm standing, 25 feet. And by the way, these BT1s have Bluetooth 5.0, so should last around 30 to 33 feet, but I already got some starting right there, past line of sight. It's about normal. We are at 30 feet, and I'm going to keep walking this way. Ooh, it's cold, and I'm going to see when they cut off. And right here is when they pretty much go dead. It's around 36, 37 feet. So I'm going to walk back and see if they reconnect, and if they do, whether media resumes. If it doesn't, it's fine. But you can see the fit on my head as well. As we mentioned earlier, these are super oral. They sit on the ear and they're really compact. They hug the skull really well. It still hasn't reconnected. Let's quickly go check it out. I'm going to cut to that real quick. So this is weird, guys, and I'm not talking about that loud sound in the background. I think somebody's cutting down a tree, but earlier we saw these headphones disconnected from the phone, normal stuff, but back into range, they didn't reconnect. I had to come back to the phone and reconnect them manually. So something to bear in mind, if you're using these headphones, don't stray too far, because if you do, every time you come back into range, you have to reconnect it. I'm not sure if it's because of this phone, or if it's just some kind of weird Bluetooth thing that Status Audio did with this, or they forgot to implement properly. Alright guys, now I'm going to be testing out that single mic to see how well this thing does for Bluetooth phone calls. I'm outside right now. I'm going to take a sample. It is supposedly commute hours, so we'll see how well these things do. I tested these earlier, by the way. Noise suppression is not its forte. It kind of falls apart, but in quiet environments, these things sound really good. As you can probably tell from my voice quality. Hold on, let me be quiet for a bit. See, when cars pass by, when there's a decent amount of sound in the background, these guys don't do really much noise suppression. And my voice, you can hear in the sample, there's probably some buzzing in the background, so if that irks you, you probably want to go somewhere else. But overall, the tonality in the bass is not bad, right? So these things sound good in a quiet environment. I go back to that and saying that these, you use this at home in video conferencing, this is perfect, but you use this outdoors. The single mic just struggles. Here's another car passing by. Yeah, it's not too hot. It could do better. Maybe Status Audio think about adding another mic in the future, or 2 or 3. That would be useful, but as it is, quiet environments, good. Noisy environments, thumbs down. Here's another car. How's that? It's okay. Maybe next time. So in case you haven't noticed, I really like these headphones because there's so many good things going for it. But I want to talk about some negatives first, get those things out of the way before we jump into the good stuff. So the first few things that I noticed, you probably saw this in a close-up as well, is the plasticky build. I'm not sure about the durability, and I just can't get over the poor choice of plastics that they use. Sure, it's $55 only, but they could have used slightly better plastics. So in terms of durability and looks, some of you may be turned off by that. Secondly is Status Audio's relatively unknown reputation. You're probably like questioning why you should click and watch this video in the first place because of the brand. You've never heard of it. And Status Audio only has 2 products out there right now, this one and the CB1 Studio Monitoring. Sure, both of them have received rave reviews from regular and professional customers alike, but yeah, it's a new company. And the last negative, I don't think is the BT1's fault per se because of what category it lies in. It's not a do-it-all device, so you have to understand that. But therefore, I have to say these also have usage limitations because for $30 you can get the sound Soundcore Q30 that does a whole lot more, but granted, these guys sound a whole lot better. But that being said, usage limitations, it lacks water resistance or sweat resistance, so you shouldn't full on work out in them, otherwise you destroy them. That being said though, they have good clamping force, and because of its lightness, they will stay on the head. There's no noise cancellation, some of you may be bummed by that. There is some decent passive sound isolation, but it does leak a lot of sound out as well as in. And so the usage, it's very limited. You can only use this in quiet environments. Say if you're zooming, you probably should zoom or video conference in a quiet room or while you're listening to music in your den. Who has a den anymore? I don't have a den. Do you have a den? Now, let's talk about some of the things that I really like about the BT1s. So, when I first heard about these headphones over the grapevine and decided to check them out online, there were positive reviews everywhere. People were raving about it left and right, but I was skeptical and just took it with a grain of salt because, like you, I've never heard of Status Audio, and number two, positive reviews can always be bought. So that was my mindset until I bought it, put it on my ears, and started listening to my first test song. And I was like, oh my goodness, where have you been all my life, BT1? These things sound so rich and enveloping, guys. It's not even funny. It's truly a neutral listening experience, maybe with a slight bass push, but it's strong throughout the frequency range with maybe a slight sibilance. Vocals are the strengths, man. It's the high point of this thing, as well as bass. It thumps really good and it's nice and controlled. There's a lot of detail to be had as well. For example, when I listen to Denise Williams' Black Butterfly, the instruments all around from left to right is just nice and solid. When I listen to Trevor Daniels' Falling, that bass drop, whenever that hits, boom, this thing is so well controlled even at strong high volumes. But that being said, the sound is a little bit muffled from time to time. I feel it's a little bit muffled, but I think it's not the fault of the driver or the tuning. I think it might have to do with the ear pad aperture. But that being said, this thing sounds so good, guys. It's one of the highlights. It definitely is. Another positive I have is how basic these headphones are, and not in a bad way either. It's uncomplicated and it focuses on what it does best, which means sound quality. I just love the simplicity and the lightness and the portability of the whole thing. Sure, I knocked on the plastics earlier, but the same plastics keeps it light and chuckable. So here we are, guys, and my final thoughts, and I'm gonna go ahead and score this thing first. I want to bestow the Status Audio BT1 a GearUP score of 8 out of 10. It scores lowly for its plasticky build, its chintzy buttons, its subpar mic quality, but overall it excels where it counts. It sounds so good, guys. It's neutral and solid while it's comfortable at the same time. It definitely sounds like a $150 device that only costs 55 bucks. But you know what, guys? I can gush over these things till I turn blue, but the fact is, on-ear headphones are just not for everybody. Everybody nowadays wants some kind of sound isolation, including myself, so cans like the BT1 require some kind of different thinking or a different usage scenario altogether. But in conclusion, guys, I think you definitely owe it to yourself to check out the BT1 if you can, especially if you grew up appreciating or even owning one of those lightweight, budget-friendly, old-school looking headphones like the Koss Porter Pro and the Grado SR80. And I bring up those two brands because for the price, they sounded so good. One was slightly lower end, the $35 one, and the Grados were $99, but they sounded so good while looking old school at the same time. So I believe the BT1 is one of those. They continue the trend while going back to the basics and sounding good at the same time. Alternatively, also, you should definitely check out these headphones if you're looking for a pair of headphones to use in a quiet environment. It's a perfect place for them if you want to just use it around the house or, God forbid, in your den. Whatever that is. Well, there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I definitely have Status Audio on my radar right now. I'm watching you guys to see what you do next. But remember to come back next Friday for a new episode. I really appreciate your support all this time. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already and get me to 10,000 subs. Click that button down below and mash that button and tell your friends and family about it. Visit my Patreon page down here where you can, buy me a tip, send me a tip or something, or buy me a cup of coffee or tea. Remember to thumbs up also if you like this video. That's very important, Yash. And comment nicely down below. And thumbs down. Thumbs down to plain donuts. You know, the ones with no sugar coating or any kind of coating. It's just a piece of round dough. And yeah, who eats that anyway? Even dieters don't eat it because it has too much calories. Anytime you open a box of mixed flavored donuts, no one touches the plain donuts. So what's the point of them anyway? So thumbs down to plain donuts. Anyways, that's all I got, guys. Thank you so much again for being here. Remember to do something nice and kind for somebody. Show some love in the world, especially with COVID going around the world like crazy. Mask up, take care of each other, and I'll see you the next time. Until the next time, guys, God bless.